I slowly fall to pieces, wearing my heart upon my sleeve. You may think you've got the pill to cure my heart, there ain't no remedy for me.
Hey, Jason, welcome back to the show, brother. How you doing, big guy?
It's so good to be back and so appreciative of your time in doing this. I'm serious. And I do want to say, you know, I feel like I've been not from the beginning, but I've been a part of your journey in watching this grow. And I just can't tell you how proud I am of what you've been able to do and the number of interviews. It's just been great. I have not obviously been able to watch every single one of them, but the ones that I have watched are just it's just amazing. And so I'm really proud of you. And I wanted to tell you that.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it. And back at you, man, because we're here to celebrate a new album, right?
We are. Proof of Life just came out 3 weeks ago. And we're talking probably 6, 7 months in the making of that album. I think that my MO over the course of the past 2 to 3 years has just been release a single and release a single and release a single, which has been fun and fine. And it's a lot easier to kind of, back that up. And like I said, I am by no means anybody on the cusp of any type of fame or lore, if you will. So it's always been fun just to kind of put that out. But when you start having a collection of songs and that creative spark just keeps going, I just said it's time. It's time to really, invest in this and kind of push that. And so I did it. And it took a good 7 months to get that out.
Then you kind of take a break from social media and then just kind of focus maybe on the recording, right?
I did. And I think it's an important message too. Social media is it's an interesting dynamic. It's an interesting tool. It wasn't so much of a mental thing as much as it was a creativity and productivity challenge that I think that kind of comes with social media. There's a balance between, for musicians, especially by using it as a tool to help promote your music, as a tool to share, as a tool to, kind of spread the word. Then there's the other side of it where you can get stuck in these dark spaces of, and I'm not saying anything crazy, but these dark spaces of just doom scrolling and trying to mirror content or match content, or that's a great idea. Maybe I should try and do something like this. And it almost became an issue for me personally, it became more of a growth, like my growth was stunted almost because of it, because I was finding myself just almost not organically posting and not organically creating content. I was pushing content and I was pushing ideas, and I was in a space where I had to have something. For those of you who follow me, you know that every Monday I do a Mondays post, and every Wednesday I usually do something funny, and Fridays are kind of all over the place. Well, that's a problem because I started getting stuck in a schedule, which is non-organic, and at least for me, may work for other people, but for me, I found that to be a problem. Second piece of it is I was finding myself playing less guitar and trying to be creative because I was creating either quick backtracks and then soloing over those and literally being done in 20 to 30 minutes, being like, that's Monday. And that was it. And then I'd put the guitar down and then I'd be back to scrolling to find funny content, to kind of match for, Wednesday stuff. And the whole time I was like, I haven't written anything in probably 8 months. And so, and I will say personally, there was some, not that I personally felt like I needed validation, but there was some, I would say there's some areas in there where you're almost looking for some validation to be like, how many likes am I getting? How many views is this post getting? Does this even matter? And so I just went cold turkey and said, I'm done. I think this is not healthy for me to, if I want to continue to be creative, this is not helping at the moment. Right.
Yeah.
And literally that's how Proof of Life came back, because there were friends and family who would reach out and be like, are you okay? Like, I haven't seen you post. I'm like, that's the other effect of it, is to be like, look at you texting me, or look at you calling me. And so being able to really reconnect with family and with friends and have real conversations, not just through DM, not just through reel sharing, not just through music sharing, but it was good for me to do that. And boom, right out of the gate, just stuff started kind of flooding around, say January, February timeframe. And then I just kept writing, and then, obviously in my studio, just kept recording stuff. And that's how Proof of Life kind of came about. And I got hooked up with an incredible producer out of San Diego. His name's Jeremy Miller with Miller Time Music, who I used to do, a ton of his open mics in San Diego, and some showcases with him. And so it was just, a partnership was formed, and he produced what I think is some of my best stuff. And well, I think we always say that, it's like, oh my God, I think this is the best thing I've ever written. I just think cohesively and creatively, it's some of the best stuff I've done that actually came together, versus just being like, I'm just going to write something and kind of put it out. And
Love it.
last thing, and I'll stop,
Hmm.
is that the majority of my stuff before was just me and my acoustic, is just kind of singer songwriter stuff. And this, drums, bass, guitar, it's loud. It showcases more of my guitar soloing skills, which I really love. And so that's why I ultimately mean, like, it's some of the best stuff I've actually been able to bring together. And Jeremy plays piano on it too, and organ, which is awesome.
I was gonna ask you if
So
there's any other musicians. Did he bring him in, or did you bring him in? How'd that work?
it was just him and I, and so that's, I think, was what really made this work, is that, we would email and call each other, and we, instead of being like, hey, I really think if you did this bridge section here, or or maybe if you tweak your guitar this way or this way, he would just all of a sudden just send me something, and I would just be like, yes, that's the sound, or yes, that's what I'm kind of going for.
That's
And
great.
so it was a really cool process, and I'm looking forward to doing it again.
I love it, because one of the questions I had was who produced it, because now, without getting cassette tapes and seeing all the liner notes and who's on there and who produced it
Right.
and all that, now we just, go to
Yes,
Spotify or YouTube, and you don't know a lot of that anymore. They're starting to add some of that in Spotify, but that was one of my
they
questions
are.
for you. Yeah, they're starting to add like credits or something to like writing credits, I think, more than anything, or something like that. But anywho, this guy, he wasn't listed on there, so I was just like, who's playing the drums? Or did you have a guy play them, or did you program them?
So drums were the only thing that were programmed, and so and I've kind of done this my whole life, is when I am playing drums, as is that I am using a Zoom, uh, drum machine, and it's literally just to get kind of those certain beats, right? And so I would basically just kind of track the song to basically say, Jeremy, this is kind of what I'm doing. And he would just take the drum track and then just reconfigure it to be like, okay, these are, so it's not just this harsh kind of 1, 2, 3 type beat. He was taking care of that. And like I said, that's the only thing that's been done electronically. Other than that, I play bass on every song. I play guitar on every song. I play all the solos, obviously sing all the vocals, and then Jeremy added the piano and the organ. So, the only thing I don't have in my back pocket, is a drummer right down the street where, I can shove him in my garage and say, this is what I'm doing here.
I love it. All right. And so, what guitars did you use on the album, brother?
Is I stuck to just a few. All the acoustic tracks were basically done with my Taylor 614 Builders Edition, which has been with me for years. And so you can hear a lot of that. I have a Taylor 12 string Koa that I used, as well as my which I love recording with, and actually playing live as well, as a Koa 7 Taylor Koa 722 CE. It's a 12 fret, and actually I just had it right here. This guy right here. So this was used quite a bit as well, especially on some of the solos. And then from an electric perspective, you can see it right behind me. The Powers Electric, the Coral coral color back there that was used extensively. And you want to talk about just a variety of different sounds. My buddy, my buddy Aaron Dablow with Taylor Guitars. I go out every December to a friends and family event, and it was the one Taylor, or one type of Taylor brand, or Powers Electric brand, is like they've been out. I've always been interested in them, and all of a sudden I had the opportunity to snag one up, and so I did. And then and it plays amazing. Like everything from the clean to funky to blues to even some harder rock sounds. I use that quite a bit. Obviously, my buddy Guy Strap, my Fender Custom, and right behind me as well. I'm a huge polka dot guy, and then the Buddy Guy, which is actually autographed by Buddy Guy back here, which has got an interesting story behind it too. So those three guitars were the only three that were really used on the electric stuff.
But what type of effects did you use? Do you have like a pedal board, or did you use like a multi-effects unit, or what did you use?
This is what's amazing, more and more when I've recorded everything dry. And
Hmm.
so no effects were used at the beginning, right? And so and so basically I would just tell Jeremy, I was like, this song has got more of a Black Crows type of feel, or it's got kind of that Rich Robinson crunch, or I need kind of like this John Mayer tone, and
So
and
plugins.
on a couple of them is the yeah, a bunch of plugins, obviously through the recording process, and because it's just done so differently now, where it was the first time I actually recorded where you don't really understand what you're going to get, and that stifles the creativity a little bit too, because it's so dry and it's so clean. And here I am playing this solo, like thinking I'm rocking out, and it's like there's no sustain. The bend is like a little awkward here and there. So I found myself re-recording things many times, only then to come to find out. And like I said, this just still kind of tells you we grow within this industry, we grow within this process. That Jeremy came back and even said, you could have added effects to at least record them and then just take them out. And that's when I was like, I'm gonna have to remember that next time.
There's some advice. I was going to ask you eventually some advice for people right now doing what you're doing, and that is one of them right there.
Yeah,
That it's not an
it
it's an old
is.
trick from even the 80s. We used to play like Larry Carlton and guys sometimes direct into the soundboard, and then they would add
Yes.
through the processors. They would add the reverb and they would add the delays and this chorus back then in the 80s, a lot of chorus.
Right.
And so it's
Right.
interesting that we do
Yes.
it now with plugins, but it's the same concept as rack units and recording and adding it. So that is something interesting. So you're saying now that you could record with it with your effects, getting your sound because your bends and your stuff, they're just dry and dropping off. They're not lingering and all that, right?
Yes.
So there's no
Right.
trail on the
Right.
notes. There's none of that. So yeah, so add the effects
Yes.
initially, then you can send it dry, and then they could make it the way they
Correct.
need it.
Correct.
Interesting.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, and that's the thing. Like even with plugins, when I record through Pro Tools here, I've got a variety of various plugins and various amp modelers, things that I've used before. That I just, again, when you're, sometimes, like when you're your own person and you're by yourself and stuff like that, these continue to be things that you learn along the way, even when you've been doing it for tons of years. And I'm sure even if we're going to go record the next time, you still learn something that just continues to help you grow.
So
Yeah.
you said you had these songs kind of brewing in the mix for a while, but was there any recent ones that popped up in the last few months that you added to the album, or were they all kind of written before 2026?
No, I only had two. I had Take the Memory, which is actually at the very end of the album, which literally is just me and my guitar, and then some guitar solos, which I love. And that's kind of how, people have gotten to know me. But Take the Memory was there, and then one that I've been working on since December was called Disappointment. And so those were kind of the first two that kind of kickstarted everything to say, I'll just release them as singles. But then as I started writing and a little bit more, what I found was is that I was kind of adding, when I was kind of writing the drum parts for Disappointment, I started coming up with other things. And when I say coming up with other things, oh, I'm sorry, distraction was another one that I'd had in the can. Uh, Gosh, I was playing that out in bars since 2000, since 24. And so I was like, okay, well, I need drums for distraction. So while I was writing the drums for distraction and disappointment, I found myself writing songs completely outside in, meaning that I didn't have a lyric, I didn't have a hook, I didn't really have a riff. I just had a chord progression and a drum beat, and that's how Remedy came out. Was I was just messing around in drop D, and I was just, and it's not a very difficult song. It's a very simple chord progression. It's a chord progression many people have used before, but I was doing it just to practice with it and just to be like, what kind of sound can I kind of get? And out of that came this song that I had written from start to finish with no lyrics. And I had to go back. I had an idea, kind of going from the bridge into the chorus kind of thing. Excuse me. But um, but then all of a sudden now I had this, what I would call this finished song, and then I wrote the rest of it. And Loving Me Anyway did the same thing. And with you, I was just sitting here on the phone, and I was trying, and I was just playing, again, drop D. And next thing I know, I like, here comes this other idea. And again, wrote the whole thing, programmed all the drums, and then had to go back and be like, all right, what do you want to say? So that was another fun part of the process that obviously was a little, it's time consuming because you don't want to just throw something out there. But that's kind of how, I had 3 songs ready to go, and then another 4 that just kind of came out of it to complete the 7. But I kept writing. I kept writing even during the process, but I was like, no, I'm going to save this, for later, and just really hone in on these 7 that I truly love and I'm truly connected with, because it truly tells the story of, again, kind of things I've gone through, and things that I think about, things I've observed, as well as, being gone for so long, hence the title Proof of Life. It's like, no, I'm still around. I'm still
Well,
here.
I do hear things on it. So first things I started hearing about the lyrics was like there's some introspection going on here. So I'm like, this is not
For sure.
the songs of like a 22-year-old man, young man. These are songs of maybe a 29-year-old like you are, you know. We're all 29.
I love the compliment. Thank you so much.
But you know what I'm saying is like it sounds like for example, disappointment has a name. It's me. I haven't gotten over you. It's like, I'm like, oh, I was like listening to the
Yeah.
lyrics. I'm like, oh, okay, like those are, that's cool. I dig it. Some of us have been through a
Yeah.
few more things in life, and now we can write based on the effects of those things we've been through. So there's some maturity in the writing. I like it. And they're also topics that are like time tested, about disappointment and love and hope and all those things. So, when we look back on some of the good 70s and 80s, like Journey and all them, and why them songs, Toto, they still
Yeah.
last us because they do appeal to the condition of man in the heart, you know. So I do
They
want to give
do. They
compliments
do.
to that. I love it.
Thank you. I
S-
appreciate that very much.
So when you start writing these things, for example, people don't understand there are different ways to approach beginning of a song. So like Keith Urban years ago always had his drum machines going, and then he just went with the vibe, and he wrote some progressions, and he wrote the lyrics, kind of like you were just talking about. Other people start with lyrics and a hook. Other people start with a hook. Then you know what I mean. The Rolling Stones did that a lot with a hook and lyrics. So what do you look to when you are doing that process? You have your progression. And now you want to write some lyrics based on the emotives of the song, right, of the progression. So what do you look to for inspiration? Do you have like poetry? Do you just rely on other musicians? What do you do?
There's I think observation is a key. as well as being a little bit more introspective and being like, I mean, there's a piece of you in everything that you write. I truly believe there's a piece of you in every guitar solo that you play. It's there's a piece of you that just kind of comes out in colors and in shapes that kind of bring your personality. You know what I mean? Obviously, what my number one guitar influence is David Gilmour, and I just see every time I watch him play, I know everybody goes, that's David Gilmour. And I think each of us can kind of have a sound, if you will, when you play. And so same thing, with on the songwriting part of it, there's that introspection, there's that observation, and I'm gonna be crass here a little bit, be kind of funny, but there's a ton of stuff I can get just watching reality TV, of just watching, like, oh, there's a situation there, or there's this, and you can kind of just take those stories too and kind of write about them. And it's just, like I said, every day what I'm trying to continually get better at is I listen with intent when I have conversations with people. I think that's critically important for great, not only just great communication, but also from a relationship perspective. It just adds more credibility to the friendship and the relationship that you have. But I'm not going to say I'm not listening for keywords, key phrases, or things to be like, that's it right there. Like that's a line, kind of thing. And a lot of writers do that. They will, they will hear something in conversation and be like, oh my gosh, like that is something. Maybe it is something. Maybe it builds into something. Maybe it doesn't. You know, um, I'm not beyond having an idea that I sing into my phone that may just be nothing. When you're driving down the road, and then next thing you know, you try to turn that into something. So you're pulling from all of these different places to be able to kind of figure out, okay, now the hard part is, how do you put it together?
Right.
Sometimes things fall out of the sky, right, and right into your lap, and other times you're like writing and writing and be like, that makes no sense. Hey, dude, I don't like green eggs and ham, kind of thing. And you're like, so you sometimes have to put it to the side and come back to it.
So let me ask you about playing out
It
now.
is.
I saw a video of you playing out already, and you're doing some of these songs. So how this is a big issue for a lot of people when they record in the modern age right now. When they record an album, a lot of my friends,
Mhm.
even locally, they record an album, they got
Right.
layers, they got background vocals in it, they got all this stuff going, and they all have to go out now and play by themselves. Some use looper pedals with their tracks in it. Some use a MacBook on the side as an input into this PA. Other people just say,
Hmm.
forget it, and some of my friends, they just do their own versions of their own songs again, so it sounds a little way different.
Right.
So how are you approaching,
Yeah.
like, if you were to come out to Tulsa right now and play open mic out here, how would you approach that?
Completely bare. I think that's always been my thing, is that these songs, most of them started out
Hmm.
on acoustic with nothing else, behind it. And so to me, it's you strip all of that away and still kind of play that. I feel like I hope I do it some justice on some of the harder songs like Remedy, which is obviously a lot of drums and a lot of, I'm doing a lot of, which I'm actually playing out tonight. I'm doing a lot of just muted,
Percussion?
palm picking. Yeah, just yeah, in percussion, just right there, just to be like, this is how I'm gonna do the verse, and then boom, I'll go into the bridge and the chorus, and just kind of see how that works. But the majority of my stuff is so simple that it's just just me and a guitar is just fine, right?
Mhm.
But that being said, I have been playing with a friend of mine, and his name's Rich, and we are continually trying to find schedule availability and time, because we just have we have a great connection there that um, we can play together and play some of my stuff, but also he's got some stuff of his own that's amazing too. So that could be budding into something. And then obviously when you go to open mics, or you're playing showcases, you meet other musicians, and that's how I met Jeremy, as a producer. So I am hopeful and planning to play with other people, to still play my stuff as well as play other people's stuff as well too.
So, so where are you going to be playing out now over the next few months? Do you have anything else lined up other than local stuff, or are you going to be traveling? Because I know you travel for your job. So do you know if you're going to be
Yes.
playing out at all?
So not yet. I'm more towards the fall probably, but I am working on, I'm doing an open mic tour now locally that I'm going to be doing over the course of the next 2 months, and then working on, a couple of showcase gigs out of state. I would really love, to get out to Tulsa. To be honest, I would
Come
love to get
on,
out to Tulsa. I would love to hang with you,
hook you up.
and find a place to play, and do some things that way. And then, who knows what'll happen. But the fall is really a prime time for me.
You got some things coming out, but where can people find your music?
Yes.
Give a plug.
Yeah, no, I mean it's Proof of Life as well as all my older stuff is on every platform. So Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube Music, Pandora, Amazon Music, wherever you stream. One of my taglines really is like whatever stream you fish in, I'm there.
Okay,
So
I'm gonna steal that.
don't let anybody steal that.
I'm gonna steal it. It's already mine. I'm gonna
Whatever
mix that
stream
out
you
of the
fish
video.
in. Whatever stream you get your fish from, that's where I'm located. And obviously on Instagram, which I would love to continue to push people to that platform as well too. And then I moved from CD Baby over to DistroKid, which I think has been a really good move on my part. But it's trying to take advantage of all those tools.
I love it.
TikTok, Snapchat, I'm all over the place there. But I would love for people to just go and stream. And it's one of those things. The other thing that I've kind of learned through the process before, back in the day when you release something, it was all about getting your friends to kind of pump your stuff out through Instagram. Like continue to share your
Mhm.
stories. And what I'm kind of asking people to do is, no, I would love for you to add my songs or one of my songs to one of your playlists, or throw it out to your friends' playlists, like those types of things that just kind of continues to build that organic growth. Not that Instagram's not still a valuable tool to promote, but it's again, if you
Just one
go
of
through
them.
the whole, it's just one of them, just go through the whole
Yeah.
scrolling things.
And before we wrap up, I gotta ask you about the album cover.
Yeah.
Come on, man! Like you got that Gibson guitar on there, and then you got the car. Like what's the deal with all that? Like, is that the Gibson right
Great
there?
story. Actually, this is it right here. This is
Cool.
the
It's really
Chet
cool.
Atkins SST, obviously,
Yeah.
and this thing's been played, all over the place. And so, a buddy of mine, his name is Les Hudson, great friend, go back a lot of years working together. Very creative. I was just like, hey, I'm on, this guitar's already trashed. So I'm just trying to give it a little, trying to get it preserved, give it a little life, if you will. And so, from, you know, relicking it a little bit, more to match the scratches that were already on it. And then just, making sure that everything kind of stayed protected, because it's still an incredible guitar and I still play it.
Cool.
Whoa, as I drop it. Um, so I go to his house, we go make that happen. And then next thing you know, I'm like, hey, can I take pictures of it in your car?
Oh, that was
Obviously
his
his
car?
his, his Porsche. That's his car. And so he's
Oh,
like, sure. I'm just like, I don't care. So I put it in the front seat, I put it in front of the car, behind the car, and I'm just taking pictures with my iPhone, literally just because I'm thinking this is great content. And next thing you know, I called Les and I said, hey, I want you to design my album cover, because it's called Proof of Life, which has got obviously the cardio scans or whatever, the EKG scan, and then there's a heart in there. And so he gave me a ton of concepts, and then I kind of passed them around to some family, because I didn't like the car part at first. I was like, I think I need to be in it, right? Like people need to know kind of who I am. But when I passed around, everybody overwhelmingly like was said, you got to use the car. You got to use the car picture. And so, it's like it's not what I want. It's kind of what fits. And so that's how that whole story kind of came about, you know.
all right. Before we finish, I've got a couple quick, funny questions for you. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. These are shoot from the hooks. I know you got pressed for time, right?
It's all good. Let's do it.
All right, you ready? So here we go. If you had to use one of your guitars as a weapon in a rock and roll battle, which one would you choose and why?
That's easy. I would choose my Jackson King V Pro
Ooh,
Series. It's it's the twin. So it's white on one side, black on the other. And
nice.
A, it would look cool, and B, I think it would be way more effective than swinging a Strat.
I love it. All right, if you could swap lives with any 80s music icon for a day, who would you choose and what would be the first thing you would do? Your 80s music
Um,
icon, who would it be?
80s music icon. Man,
Just for a
Sean,
day.
that's interesting because that even for a day, one, if I switched, I would hopefully come out of it unscathed and drug free. Because the 80s was that's pretty crazy time,
Decade of
right?
Decadence.
Uh hands down it'd be George Lynch. I think, 80s music
Oh,
icon.
Lynch
Yeah.
Mob, you'd be out there
For a
jamming.
day. Lynch Mob, I would just, yeah. I would
Docket.
love to be able to effectively play some George Lynch solos because I cannot. And he's still an amazing guitar player. So that,
Yeah, all
yeah.
right. I bought Docket and Back for the Attack, all that stuff back in the day when it was brand new. That was a good one. All right. Speaking of the 80s stuff, if you could collaborate with any 80s cartoon character instead of a musician, who would it be? He-Man, G.I. Joe, Transformers, Smurfs?
I didn't watch a bunch of 80s cartoons.
90s then. Don't
But I
matter.
was but what's interesting is that I don't know if you ever saw they did remakes of the GI Joe PSAs on YouTube. You can still find them.
Yes.
Those stick in my head all the time. So let's go with GI Joe because I still remember laughing at all of those.
Snake Eyes or Duke?
Yeah.
Would you be Duke
When
or
he's when the guy when the I don't know when the guy goes pork chop sandwiches. He's running out of a burning building.
knowing is half the battle, kids? I love it.
That's right. Yes.
All
Yes.
right, we got one more 80s thing. If your new album was a character in the 80s movie, would it be the rebellious teen, the prom queen, the grumpy parent? Who would it be in an 80s movie?
Oh, definitely rebellious. Definitely rebellious teen. There's always that streak, right, of misfit, in all of us. And I was never prom king, so I'll definitely, and I'm too happy to be grumpy. Is obviously hashtag choose happy.
Yeah,
That's
although there
always
is
that's
always
always
the line in
important.
the 80s of the nerdy guy that's put down who ends up coming back and being successful, getting the girl. There's always that guy too. There's the rebellious guy, then
There
the
is that
nerdy guy.
guy. That
Yeah,
is
so
true. That is true.
still go with the rebellious
Mm.
guy, like Breakfast Club.
That still goes rebellious. Still, yes, yes.
Go with the
I'll still
rebellious
go
guy.
Judd Nelson all the
Yeah, he's
way.
doing his fist.
Judd, Judd Nelson all the way.
All right, here we go. Two more questions. And this is a
I'm
typical
ready.
one. And I don't think I've asked you this before, but if you were stranded on a desert island, name your three albums you would need to have.
That's so
That's
tough to go with
tough.
three. But
That's
I'm
tough.
so glad that you said, you didn't say one. Well, see, so okay, three albums. I think, I don't know why people don't go this route a little bit. I understand when people go with a specific album that just, speaks to them front to back, right? But I get to go with compilations because you didn't limit me to that. So
Go
I
for it.
would take Billy Joel's greatest hits. I could listen to that, time after time. Shine Down, Somewhere in the Stratosphere. It's a double live album. So that's got a combination of all their hits, even though they've done so much more and their new album 8 is insane. It's so good. Um, and then that last one is gonna be a little tough. So I got Billy Joel, got Shine Down for some harder stuff. Oh, I could do a various compilation of artists that are on an album, from any like, oh, I'd be like, now that's what you what is it? Now that's what I call music, right?
There you go. Yeah, the
Now
good
that's what I call
call,
music,
man.
right?
That's what I call music.
Yes.
Yeah, love it. Then you'd have
Yeah,
a
that's what I call
variety.
music. So I'd have a variety of stuff.
Would it be like an
Yes.
80s,
So
90s,
Billy
2000 era?
it'd be 80s and 90s for sure, but it would be all metal. It'd be all like harder rock stuff.
The glam
Billy
rock.
Joel sets the mood, it's all chill. Yeah, and then then you got Shine Down, and then you got a variety of everything from God. I mean, it would be everything from Oasis to Billy Squier to Metallica.
Yeah, buddy. To
Yeah.
Dokken, right?
Oh,
All
this
right.
is, yeah. I can't forget Dave Matthews, obviously, because I
Oh,
love
you like
listening to
Dave?
Dave too.
Nice. I love
Do
it.
for sure.
All
Yeah.
right. So last question for you, buddy. What's a talent that you have that would totally surprise your fans, but might not fit into your rock and roll thing? What's your talent?
I can cook. I do love to
Oh,
cook. I
yeah,
do
buddy.
love to cook. It's one of
That's
those
a,
things I never like showcased, kind of like Instagram, but I love to meal prep. I love to cook. So that's that to me. I think that would surprise people
I
a
love
little
it,
bit,
buddy. I
you
love
know?
it. That's a good one, man.
Yeah.
To cook. I mean, cooking's like an art
Thank
form.
you.
Cooking's an
I
art.
know. I
Uh,
know.
All right, give me a recipe real fast before we end. Now, give me something like if I was coming over, what would you make me?
Oh, chicken parm, it would be number one. So I love making a bomb chicken parm. But I also, grew up in Texas and in Colorado. So, and then moved back to Texas, and so barbecue. You tell me, you want brisket, you want ribs, those types of things, low and slow, and be eating like kings later on that day. So I love to barbecue and I love to cook.
All right, so we're coming over to Jason's house for barbecue, and then we're going out to
That's
play
right.
music and guitars, and then we're hitting the beach at the end.
Yes. Yes. I think another one,
Yeah.
another tagline I used was just out here living on hopes and streams. Uh,
Oh,
you know,
what do you sound like my Nashville friends right now because they go to those writers rounds and stuff and they play.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like, you sound like those guys, man. They're always like coming up with songs and stuff, like. And whereas we're ending,
Yes.
brother, I appreciate you coming on the show, spending your time with me, and
You have no idea how much I appreciate this, even just as a reconnect with a friend and spending time with you and talking shop. And you've taught me some things today that I'm gonna be reaching out to you for. So I appreciate it.